Pressure again. Runs away from it. Throws on the run. Caught! Touchdown! Dalton Kincaid.
You're always concerned about what he can do. Shows blitz, drops in great position. Great position, but now he steps up. It's going to stop him from running.
Josh Allen looked good last night. Looked really good. The Buffalo Bills beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but Tampa covers. I knew that they would on the saddest 18-play drive, 4-minute drive you've ever seen in your life. The Bills then get a first down, but the Bucs get the ball back. And there's a Hail Mary at the end of the game. As much is being said about the generally pathetic call from Al Michaels on what was incredibly close to a game-winning Hail Mary. Let's listen to the call from Al Michaels.
The 10-yard line. 5. Mayfield dancing all around. Throw it as far as he can throw it. Jump ball coming. Crazy stuff. Not this time.
Jump ball coming. Crazy stuff. Not this time. Let's hear that legendary game on the line. Hail Mary, 65-yard call again.
As far as he can throw it. Jump ball coming. Crazy stuff. Not this time.
What a legend Al Michaels was 5 years ago. What's interesting about this play is watch Chris Godwin here, number 14. He's turning to the right. He turns right there. If he had turned around as like a half a second earlier, the Bucs win that game because they went for 2 down 14. Analytics says go for 2 down 14. Whatever. I don't think that's the smart move myself for a number of reasons we can talk about later. It's a football Friday, and we're waking up with Michigan stuff. So here's the new developments. The rumors are that Michigan was giving their stolen signs to other teams, which would be bananas. As in, why would they do that? Well, because they were scared of Tennessee and Georgia. They didn't want Tennessee and Georgia to go to the playoff, and they're like, well, why didn't they scout TCU? It was like, because they really wanted TCU to go to the playoff. Like, really bad. Because they thought they would beat TCU, which is LOL. Fucking so funny. The word on the street is that South Carolina, a mid-team, all of a sudden out of nowhere, gets some sort of tip or something and just demolishes Clemson and Tennessee, who were top 5 teams at the time. They didn't need to do that to Tennessee. They didn't need to keep Tennessee out of the playoffs. They were not going to beat Georgia. That's 2 losses for Tennessee at that time, I think. Might have been 1. I don't remember. Doesn't matter. So they lose to South Carolina, who had a quarterback that was averaging like 200 yards a game, had 350 yards in back-to-back games. And now everyone's like, well, how could this happen? Well, Tennessee was, they're wretched and they're rich. They're going to figure it out. Now, my favorite thing that has happened recently is that Aidan Hutchinson was asked about this at the Detroit, because football players, pro football players have to talk to the media at certain times. And then you go in the locker room and they ask him about it, and he said something along the lines of, someone is probably trying to get us, and I didn't have any real relationship with him, and he's one of those coaches that's upstairs. False. He was on the sideline right next to Jim Harbaugh, which is the craziest thing. Also, that's Aidan Hutchinson next to the guy, and that's the guy's thing. So let's click on this from Dave Burkett, who's a beat reporter for kind of Michigan, but mostly the Lions, for the Detroit Free Press, like the realest newspaper in Detroit. And then everyone's like, hey, Dave. And then Dave's response to this tweet was, where'd that one come from? That guy's Instagram. This is the Big Ten Championship shirt. And Aiden's like, I don't really have a relationship with it. That's probably true. I mean, Aidan Hutchinson is probably begged by many Michigan losers to take this exact photo. That's probably true. Coach upstairs, coach on the sideline. I buy he didn't know. His job, he doesn't have to care unless he was copying signs, at which point if you catch Aidan, if there's camera footage of Aidan talking to this guy on the sideline for longer than 3 seconds, that'd be bad for Aidan. That would be so funny. And then he's a pro. He's going to have to deal with this distraction. This distraction could bring down the Wolverines and the Lions. That's completely possible. Anyway, we're keeping an eye on it. Michigan's got Purdue this week, and thank God that game is at home for them. Their next road game is at Penn State. Woo, buddy. That might be a college game day game. It's a big noon kickoff. Thank God for Michigan. Holy shit. But they're going to be – that's their only remaining road game, I think. Michigan's is – I think they might go to Minnesota or something annoying. Penn State, Maryland. They go to Maryland, so that doesn't count. They go to Maryland. That doesn't count. Let's get into Football Friday. I think that this might be Jim Harbaugh's last game as a coach here. I think he might have to resign, and then he'll be like, oh, no, I'm resigning and going to the NFL. He thinks he's going to the NFL. I don't think the NFL team's going to want him. I really don't. I think Bears people want him. I think that is so stupid. They almost won a Super Bowl with the Niners. Yeah, but then it fell apart because he started treating the players like they were college kids and not like they made more money than him, which they do by a lot. And they always will, and they are more important. Look at Bill Belichick. Like, oh, look at nope, players are more important. William. Here's Ryan Fitzpatrick flexing after the game last night like he still plays with Bills. Ryan Fitzpatrick played for like 30 teams. He's acting like he's a Buffalo Bill for life. He was actually, his longest and most successful stint of his career was probably with the Jets, a rival of the Bills. So Ryan is having a weird time. He's having a good time, though. I appreciate it. Real quick, World Series preview tonight. The Rangers are at home. The Diamondbacks and the Rangers are preposterously hot. They're both good on the road, so I think that might as well bet on the Diamondbacks to win the game outright. Why not? Why not? Root for chaos. I do like when home baseball teams win, though. It's just take me out to the ball game. Let's root for the home team. You know what I mean? I'm kind of serious about that. It's just like one of those things, and I hate when championships are won on the road. I hate it. You know, it's just. It's not an enjoyable thing for me. So that happens at about 8 o'clock Eastern time, and they'll do a whole thing. I imagine that the Bush family will be present. I think that, let's see, maybe Jerry Jones will be there. I don't know. Something cool will be happening. NFL trade deadline, Carl Lawson and Dalvin Cook, they are on the Jets in the last couple of years. Carl has been. This is Dalvin's first year. They both won out. The Jets are so good that they're not playing these guys. Dalvin said that he's one of those guys that gets better with more touches. Like, yeah, dude, we'll be better. And then Carl Lawson has been like a healthy inactive for the Jets. They're so good at a couple positions. They literally, with the Jets, it's literally just one thing. Like the offensive line has even been pretty good this year. Mekhi Becton seems like he's turning around. It's just the one thing. Okay, college football. I said college football. I promised college football. Let's go to college football. I even have some bets for you guys. Okay, so this weekend in college football is totally reasonable. There are total possibilities for upsets. Kansas is hosting Oklahoma. That's an 11 a.m. Central kickoff time for those two teams. Kansas might win that game, dude. It's a 9.5-point line. I'm not betting it because Oklahoma is low-key undefeated, and they're the most low-key undefeated. You forgot about them. I forgot about them. You forgot about them. There's no way you didn't forget about them. I like Wake Forest to cover against Florida State. I do not like them to beat Florida State. I like them to cover against Florida State. Other games I like Utah to cover 6.5-point home. Home dogs, man. That's not a situation you want to be in. I like Texas to cover 18.5. Their home favorites against BYU. BYU is looking very. The reason that they were so good in the Mountain West and these other conferences is because they're so big and old, but they're so slow. So when they play teams like Texas, they're going to get obliterated. Speed, they're slow. They're so slow. That's all I'm going to say about why, but that they're slow. They're slow. So Utah, I like them to cover against Oregon. That's a big game. This game right here is the exact reason why the Pac-12 will never have a team in the playoff again. Why is Utah playing Oregon? Let's look at Oregon's schedule. Oregon Ducks football. So let's look at Oregon's schedule real quick. They're in the Pac-12 North. There are 12 teams in the Pac-12, which is great when a conference is what it says it is. So there are 12 teams. Okay, they have a number of non-conference games, including Portland State, Hawaii, and Texas Tech. But then they have a conference schedule. They play 4 teams, it looks like, from the Pac-12 South. Colorado, Arizona State, USC, and Utah. In the SEC, there are 14 teams, but even when there were 12, in the SEC, you play your division. That's 5 games, or now 6, and you play 2 teams from the other side of the conference. You have 4 non-conference games. Because there are so many conference games in the Pac-12, they have to play all of the good teams. So, of course, you got to play Washington. That's a division rival. There's no reason for them to be playing Utah. And all it's going to do is give one of these 2 teams a loss, and then they're going to be knocked out. They have 2 teams that legitimately have a shot at making the college football playoff, and one of them is going to be eliminated on a game that really doesn't need to happen. You want to do some cross-conference stuff, but not this many. This is why it has nothing to do with them being better or worse at football. Watch the bowl games. The Pac-12 is not better or worse at football than the rest of the the nation. They play too many games against each other. Conferences are hard. Yeah, so relatively boring slate. Low-key teams to watch out for. Oklahoma, like I said, sneaky undefeated. Ole Miss, by the way, has a very clear path to the playoff. I was looking at it yesterday. I don't think they're going to beat Georgia under no circumstance. But if they do, they're in. They're simply in the playoff. That's not necessarily true, but they will have 2 good road wins. Tulane is ranked. And they won't have to go to the SEC Championship. Bama can do that. The big game of the weekend, of course, speaking of Bama, LSU-Bama. I think the Heisman favorite right now is Michael Penix, but actually it's J.J. McCarthy. J.J. McCarthy and Michael Penix, that could be a gambling thing, though. I wonder if that's going to move now that this. But Jaden Daniels, low-key. He's a low-key one to watch here for LSU. They look really good, and what's his name? Brian Kelly has made LSU's offense pretty good. Okay, let's go to the NFL. Bama, LSU, Oregon, Utah. Gambling of the weekend, Utah to cover and Texas to cover, and maybe, if you're crazy, Kansas to win. So Kansas to win, possibly if you're crazy. Utah to cover, Wake Forest to cover. Forgot about that one, and Texas to cover. So I'll put it on my handy-dandy best. I have Nebraska there. I'm just kind of screwing around with that. That's Purdue. I don't know. Okay, let's go to the National Football League. And it's a reasonable slate. It's not a crazy slate. It's an enjoyable slate. It's fine. This week in primetime, all 4 games are spreads over 8. The first primetime game last night, covered. Almost covered, actually. Excuse me. And I won money on that game. The Bears are 8.5-point dogs at the Chargers. The Lions are 8.5-point favorites on Monday Night Football against the Raiders. If the Bears with Tyson Bagent go into Los Angeles and beat Justin Herbert, Brandon Staley will be unemployed on Monday morning. Calling it now. Calling it right now. Okay, let's take a look at the slate. Jets and Giants, a lot to do about. Last time there was, I think Saquon Barkley had 13 carries for 1 yard or something. That was like 3 or 4 years ago whenever they played. Daniel Jones is looking like he may or may not go. It doesn't look like it. The stories out of the New York Jets are that Zach Wilson took his smoke show girlfriend back to Utah instead of staying in New York and focusing on the game, and then everyone saw the smoke show girlfriend and was like, you know what? If she wanted to go to Utah, you should probably take her to Utah. Just do whatever she says. Good for Zach, living his best life. Remember, he's a backup quarterback. He's not a starter. Everyone keeps treating him like he's the second overall pick. He is. But he's not a franchise quarterback. He's trying to be a back. He's a backup. They're pretty good. He's not a bad backup anymore. He's getting better at it. Jags Steelers is fun, low key. I'm gonna keep saying low key. The Jags kind of own the Steelers, but Trevor Lawrence was trying to compliment them in the terrible towel, and he called them little yellow towels. And now Pittsburgh's upset about that. Mike Tomlin is a home underdog. Hammer that, please. Hammer that. Mike Tomlin is a home dog. Hammer it. These are my bets for the week for the NFL weekend, by the way. We'll talk about that more later. Mike Tomlin, home underdog. Are you kidding? Absolutely. Eagles and Commanders. Eagles favored by 7. They're at the point of their schedule where they're just going to run train. The Rams and the Cowboys. Rams looked good early and now have kind of started to lose the grand scheme of things. They should probably start to lose more games and trade someone. Trade deadline is on Tuesday, by the way. The reason that there are no buys this week, the reason there are no buys this week is because of the trade deadline. Duh, everyone's got to play. It's an unfair advantage. Vikings are favored against the Packers. I love the Packers to cover at home. Falcons and Titans. That was, remember, Arthur Smith and Mike Vrabel are going to have the vest off. Pats and Dolphins in Miami, revenge game. Saints, Colts, don't care. You know, it's just one of those games that's going to happen. Bengals, Niners is interesting. Niners only favored by 2.5 in California. Bengals starting to wake up a little bit. Joe Burrow looks healthy. Chiefs and Broncos, feels like we just played this game. We did, and it was horrible and boring, and this is not going to be any different. Ravens at Cardinals, bleh, and then primetime. So the games, I'm watching this one because I'm gambling on it. Vikings versus Packers. Which team in the NFC North, Vikings, Packers, and Bears, which team wants a top 5 picks? Because one of you people is going to have them. Kirk Cousins is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL this year, full stop, by far. He's been substantially better than Patrick Mahomes. He is playing out of his mind. And the Packers aren't that good. But I like the Packers to cover. I actually don't know why. Maybe the Vikings are flying too close to the sun. Justin Jefferson's out. I don't know. So here are the bets. And then we will get out of here and whatnot. Here we go. I like the Lions to cover, the Packers to cover, the Jets to cover, and the Texans to cover. The Jets are going to destroy the Giants. Giants are a horrible football team. Horrendous. And now the deeper we look at it, like if you're better with Tyrod Taylor than Daniel Jones, then that says a lot about Daniel Jones and Brian Daboll, who you seem to be married to for a while. Yikes. And the Jets come in and beat you with Zach Wilson. Ugh. Gross. Gross. The Texans are better than the Panthers, and 3.5 is an insulting line, and so it's easy. Easy money. The Panthers are a fire sale. Maybe Brian Burns, Derek Brown, who knows who's going to be traded. Vegas could start trading people even before their game against Detroit. I don't know. All right, back and better than ever on Monday.